I used to pray that my league mates wouldn't watch this video every year, but that is all hopeless now thanks to 423,000 of you guys who watched this video last year. All my league mates saw it. They let me know about it, but I am a man of the people. So today I'm going to break down exactly what my strategy is for my home leagues. Even though my league mates are going to watch this, I spend 365 days a year, 7 days a week, living, breathing fantasy football so that you guys don't have to. You can just show up for this video every single year, and you should be well prepared to win your fantasy football championships. Since I am exposing my exact strategy, though, the least you guys could do is leave me a like down below, comment any of your thoughts down below. I will answer every single comment this video gets, and subscribers win championships around here. Make sure to subscribe. Be one of the GOATs, that 40% that does subscribe to the channel. A quick reminder before we get into it, our season pass is live right now to get our redraft rankings, our draft guide, 3 other draft guides of all your other favorite creators as well. The best tools in fantasy football, unlimited site access from now until 2026. The single best deal we have ever had on the site. Link is in the pinned comment, flockfantasy.com/FSE. Get the season pass. Today's video breakdown is this. Today we're going to go through what I believe is the best way to attack each position: running back, wide receiver, quarterback, and tight end, the pockets of the draft that I like, when to take your running backs, when to take your wide receivers, and so on, highlighting some of my targets at each position, so some specific players to target. And then at the end, as I do every year, I'm going to do a mock draft with my specific league settings from where I am picking, which is the 9 spot. Keep in mind, I do have some first down bonuses and big play bonuses for running backs and tight ends, but I'm not going to factor that in too much because I want as many people to take away good things from this video as possible. I would highly encourage you guys to map this out for your own leagues based on your settings and the behaviors of your league mates. So let's start with the running back strategy because this position is the driver of all fantasy positional strategies, which is the hero RB, zero RB, all that good stuff. So the last few years, I've sat here, fellas, and I've said to you, don't get more than 2 running backs before the first 7 to 8 rounds. Be selective with your running backs, all that kind of stuff. Being selective is still a good thing, but the landscape of running backs has changed in the year 2025. We have always been looking for value over replacement at this position. Saquon, Gibbs, Bijan, those type of guys later down the board. We had Chase Browns and James Cook types last year. The reason the landscape is changing is because top 4 round running backs, aka the running backs picked in the top 50 overall of average draft position, ADP as it's going to be known for the rest of this video, are outperforming top 4 round wide receivers the last 2 years. The reason we have truly gotten to a point, and maybe nerds like myself have had something to do with it, where it is best player available on the board. 5 years ago, the reason that guys like me told you guys to draft wide receivers early and not draft as many running backs is because you were deciding between, say, the running back 14 off the board and the wide receiver 5 off the board in ADP. When you're deciding now between running back 10 and wide receiver 11 off the board in ADP, it's a fair decision. In 2025, the running back landscape and the cost of running backs is much less scarce than it used to be. Even in my own home league, which of course is this whole basis for this entire video, only 16 running backs went off the board before the end of round 5 last year. Back in 2021, 4 years ago in my home league, 8 running backs went off the board with the first 8 selections, and 13 running backs were gone by pick 207, 16 running backs gone by pick 309. I picked the wide receiver 1 off the board at the 109 over the RB9, which was my decision, hence I won the title that year. And back in 2020, we saw the zero and the hero running back strategies become popular because in 2020, the ADP of the top 36, so the first 3 rounds, was made up of this: 21 running backs, 11 wide receivers, 2 quarterbacks, and 2 tight ends. Based on that makeup, this is what 2025 ADP would look like if we had 21 running backs going that high and so on. You guys can see what the ADP would look like if this were 2020, but with the 2025 players in there. It's no wonder these zero RB strategies became popular because can you imagine starting your draft with Jamar Chase, Malik Neighbors, and Brian Thomas Jr. this year? That was possible based on positional ADP 5 years ago. So if running backs are now inexpensive and they're actually a usable thing that you can draft early, are the boomers back? Are we going to start hammering running backs to start our drafts? Should we draft them like crazy 5 years ago? The short answer is still no. We still want to be selective with the running back position, but definitely do not be scared of the old running back dead zone. The rounds 4 to 7 range that I've talked about for 3 years in a row now. Dead zone running backs, ergo drafted round 4 through 7, have outperformed wide receivers last year and definitely were really close the last 2 years. For the first time since 2018, the win rate of dead zone running backs outweighed the win rate of dead zone wide receivers, and I actually expect it to continue. This is not me just reacting to what happened last year. The running back dead zone is alive for this reason and this reason only. Less and less running backs are going off the board before rounds 4 to 7. The running back dead zone 5 years ago meant that you were drafting, let's say, RB 22 through 26 in that rounds 4 to 7 range. And then once you got to round 5, round 6, and so on, we're talking RB 30 and beyond. Last year, only 14 running backs went off the board before the end of the top 50, about mid round 5 in ADP. Think about it. In 2020, if running back 27 was the first running back that you took at pick 51, then you are talking about a guy that is one of the worst running backs, starting running backs in the NFL. If you are getting running back 15 off the board at that point in time, you are getting a much better projection. And running back 15 off the board used to mean an early to mid second round pick. Now it means a 5th round pick. It is so much less pressure for that running back to produce at an elite level when he is being taken in round 5. We did not learn our lesson in 2024. Undervaluing running backs is still happening. Only 17 running backs are currently being selected before pick 50 in combined ESPN, Yahoo, Sleeper, NFL, and Underdog combined ADP. So don't be scared of the dead zone anymore. As long as you like the running back's talent, they have pass catching upside, they play for a good offense, and so on. If you are deciding between, say, running back 19 and ADP in the 6th round and wide receiver 33 in ADP in the 6th round, it's probably a fine pick. Just make sure you're not drafting bad running backs who have bad offenses and you're trying to catch up at the position so you don't get locked out. League winner rates, too, since 2017 are up big time for the running back position in rounds 3 to 6, courtesy of Ryan Heath of fantasypoints.com. Running backs actually outperform wide receivers in league winner rate in ESPN leagues from rounds 3, 4, 5, and 6. They are the best position of the two to be selecting according to the percentage you draft a league winner. I know old-time fantasy players will say, I like to draft 2 running backs early, and then I like to grab my other positions after that. But don't be afraid to get creative because, like I said, in rounds 3, rounds 4, rounds 5, and round 6, you can get some great running back value. So it doesn't have to be running back to start your draft. Just get more running backs earlier than you're used to doing. So all that being said, these are the things that do still apply to running backs and what I've talked about in years past. Early round running backs do still get injured at a high rate. Around 20% of the time, they miss 6 or more games of the top 20 running backs in ADP dating back to 2015. So a 200 running back sample size. And in this sample, they miss an average of 3 games per season in the top 20. Throughout this video, I'm going to be making reference to 6, 7, 8 videos that all culminated in the research for this one. This will change your early round running back strategy. We broke down the archetypes of running backs to go after. Which ones get injured at the highest rate, bust at the highest rate, boom at the highest rates, return on ADP at the highest rates, and the results are on the screen right now. You can see the 3 archetypes and then the all running backs, meaning just the all running backs of the top 20 in ADP since 2015. There's a lot going on in this chart, but the important part is this. Highlighted in green are running backs in their prime. The best chance that you have at a top 5 season, 18 plus points per game, returning on ADP is running backs in their prime. These archetypes of running backs hit at the highest rate. Breakout candidates, a little bit more boom or bust. Make sure you love them if you take them. They boom at the second highest rate. They actually returned on ADP at the highest rate, usually because they're going lower because of uncertainty reasons. But pick them wisely because they can bust at a high rate as well. Trusty veterans in blue were the worst bets you can make. They can get injured the most, they return on ADP the least, and the one thing that they had in their favor was that they didn't kill you nearly as often as the other two. Let's say you draft them RB7 off the board, they finish RB14. They lost 7 spots of ADP, but they were just fine. They were a silent killer. They didn't hurt you that much, but that is not what I'm looking for. I'm not trying to come in 7th place in my fantasy league. I'm trying to win. I'm trying to beat my other 11 league mates. So when you factor in that in the first 20 of ADP, running backs miss or disappoint you in this chart here 58.5% of the time. Ergo, 12 of the first 20 running backs off the board probably disappoint you to some degree. We still want to be selective with which running backs that we take. And in the video that I broke down, I found the next league-winning running back and running back strategy. I detailed exactly which running backs I love from a micro player take level, the running back archetypes, and the guys who scored well on a micro level, good offense, good volume, all that kind of stuff, were Bijan, Gibbs, Achane, Jonathan Taylor, Breece Hall, Kyron Williams, James Cook, Kenneth Walker, DeAndre Swift, Isaiah Pacheco, and Brian Robinson. They all scored yellow or higher, meaning their micro player takes are good. And they have the running backs in their prime archetype that we are looking for. Guys like Genty, Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, Amarian Hampton, and Trevion Henderson all popped as great breakout bets to make if you're looking for a breakout candidate who can crush their ADP. Saquon, CMC, Henry, Jacobs, and Kamara As trusty veterans, they're a little bit riskier, but they do still pop as good bets because of their micro factors. Be wary of anybody who is in orange or in red, especially if they are a trusty veteran or a breakout candidate like Joe Mixon or RJ Harvey. So here's your action plan on how to attack the most important position in fantasy. Target them pretty heavily in the early rounds, only if you love them though. Don't take them just to take them. In prior years, I've said only take 1 or 2 stabs for the first 7 to 8 picks. Don't be limited, but definitely only take them if you love them. This year, do not be scared of the dead zone rounds 4 to 7. It's fine if you take them as long as you love the profile. In recent years, like I said, rounds 3 to 6 running backs have outperformed wide receiver in league winner rates, so it's absolutely okay to play a running back in your flex, for example. The last point I want to mention about running backs is that they do benefit the most from the chaos of an NFL season. Starter goes down ahead of them. You can pick them up off the waiver wire. It does make them replaceable, but if you hit on a big-time guy, a value over replacement guy, it is going to go so hard for your fantasy chances of winning. Underdog Drafts, also the best place to practice running back value because it is a very, very depressed running back market. Join me in hunting down $2 million to first place and $15 million in total prizes in Best Ball Mania 6. Use the code FSE to sign up. Get a 50% deposit match up to $1,000. So you put in $50, you get $75 to play with. Sharpen your draft strategy against the sharpest ADP in fantasy football. Real money drafts, thousands of them, have gone on for months on Underdog, and you will be attuned to where players are supposed to go when you draft teams on Underdog. I've made the reference before that it's like sparring Mike Tyson to get trained to fight your high school bully. Your league mates are high school bullies. Mike Tyson are the players drafting on Underdog Fantasy. You will be over-prepared. And in best ball, there's no waivers, there's no trades, there's no in-season management. You can draft as many teams as you want. You don't have to worry about setting lineups every single week. Enjoy your winnings at the end of the season. Link down below in the description to train for your home league using Underdog as the best tool to do so. But let's move into wide receiver strategy. In 2025, we have a first-time strategy making the rounds on fantasy Twitter and fantasy land in general. Hero wide receiver and double hero wide receiver is definitely viable. You draft 1, maybe 2 anchors at the position in the early rounds where the hit rates are the highest. In that chart I showed you for running backs, 21% league winner rate at wide receiver is the highest of any position. 21% league winner rate in round 2, second highest of any position. And again, because rounds 3 to 6 is better for running back, it actually can make sense to take 2 anchors early on at this position. Just because you're not getting as much of a league winner rate in rounds 3 to 7 doesn't mean we're not still hitting big on those picks. You think of T. Higgins and Terry McLaurin and guys like that last year, weren't league winners, but definitely helped your fantasy team. In 2024, the wide receiver position was abysmal. It was not good. We lost some of the best picks on the board, Godwin, Rice, those type of guys to injury. They missed the most amount of games also on average in the top 20 of ADP since 2015. 2.7 games on average is running back injury rate numbers. I do not expect that to continue. The wide receiver position should bounce back. 8 of them busted since 2019. That's the highest rate. Lowest value over replacement wide receivers over 100 points. Of 17 wide receivers, that's the lowest number since 2020. The wide receiver position is in for a big-time bounce back. Through the first 8 rounds or so, you probably still want to have as many wide receivers as you can reasonably start in your starting lineup. So if you're in my home league, for example, 2 wide receivers, 2 flex, and it's full PPR, and then if you're in half PPR, this would apply to you as well. You probably want at least 4 wide receivers through the first 7 to 8 rounds, taking a few shots on running backs, maybe an elite onesie if you can. As far as picking which wide receivers to target, linked in the description is the wide receiver version of the running back study I talked about already, and the definitions of the 4 archetypes are listed on the screen, plus all of their hit rates. Very similar concept here. Prime wide receiver ones were the best wide receiver bets in fantasy. Guys who have finished as wide receiver ones before, who are under the age of 29. They could be at any age point. Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas were rookies last year, but because they finished as wide receiver ones, they are prime wide receiver ones now. Prime wide receiver twos, also very solid bets. Breakout candidates, trusty veterans, a little bit more picky. We want to be with those guys because breakout candidates bust at a high rate and trusty veterans get injured at a high rate. In rounds 3 to 7, where wide receivers kind of blend together a little bit, wide receiver 13 or so through 36, you guys will probably notice when you're doing drafts that they all blend together. Did the same principles hold up? Short answer is yes. Prime wide receiver ones are still the best bets at hitting in this territory of the draft. Prime wide receiver twos are still the second best bets. Breakout candidates had the highest ceilings of the 4. So think about wide receivers, rookie wide receivers, second-year wide receivers in the mid-rounds. The miss rate of trusty veterans in the mid-rounds got even higher than before. You could see they missed at a 45% rate and crushed very little of the time. Highlighting some wide receivers from the I Found the Next League-Winning Wide Receiver video, some targets for you guys to go after, you can see that the top 10 wide receivers in ADP are all prime wide receiver ones, which is why hero and double hero wide receiver are viable this year. When in doubt, take an early round wide receiver in the first 2 rounds. The guys wide receiver 13 through 36 in that clump that stand out as both scoring yellow or green and as a prime wide receiver 1 are T. Higgins, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Waddle, some of the single best picks in fantasy football at their current value. DJ Moore and DK Metcalf also have finished as wide receiver 1s before, but score worse a little bit on a micro level, target competition, less good quarterback play, etc. The prime wide receiver 2s, Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, George Pickens, and Chris Olave pop as decent bets as well. Don't keep these guys off your draft board. Breakout candidates to target if you guys want a high ceiling bet: Marvin Harrison, Rashee Rice, Tedderall McMillan, Xavier Worthy, Zay Flowers, Travis Hunter, Rome Odunze, Jaden Reed, and Emeka Egbuka. Mix up your profiles, take some safer guys, take some riskier guys. Probably want to end up with 4 or 5 through the first 8 rounds, like I said. On a micro level, beware of players who scored orange and who scored red, especially if they are a trusty veteran or a breakout candidate, because they get injured and they bust at a high rate respectively. Calvin Ridley, Jacoby Myers, trusty vets you want to be wary of, and Ricky Pearsall is an example of a breakout candidate you might want to be wary of. This season is a great year to hammer running back and wide receiver early. The next part is how we're going to handle the onesies, quarterback and tight end. Last year was a great year for elite tight end. It was a great year for elite quarterback, mainly because the wide receivers performed so poorly in the mid rounds that the best picks on the board were quarterbacks and tight ends. This year, I do believe you're going to have to pick which one you would probably want to divert for, an elite quarterback or an elite tight end, but probably not both because you're going to fall behind at the other positions. Quarterback and tight end strategy, of the two, I prefer elite quarterback because some of the safest picks in fantasy football, especially in round 3 and 4, where wide receiver hit rates fall off a little bit, are Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, and Jalen Hurts. The highest rate of league-winning quarterbacks come in round 3 and 4, and the reason for that is because we have these dual-threat guys. Jalen Hurts, Lamar, Josh Allen, these guys have been staples and cheat codes of fantasy football for years. 5 of the last 6 times that you've drafted Lamar, Allen, or Hurts, you got a league winner. Not a good pick, not a solid pick, a league winner, a guy that was a monster value over replacement domino that helped you guys beat your league mates. So do not be afraid of the early round quarterbacks, specifically the 4 that I mentioned, because they run the football as much as they do. Low-end quarterback 1 production will probably bounce back. Guys like Dak Prescott and others got hurt last year, so that hurt the back-end QB1s. They were down in 2024. Wide receivers in the mid-rounds, like I said, down in 2024, and running backs were up. If we see a passing renaissance around the league, we could see 8+ quarterbacks finish with 20+ points per game in fantasy for the first time since 2021. So if you fail to get one of those 4, I am personally not taking the first quarterback value that falls to me, whether it's Burrow, Mahomes, some of those other quarterbacks off the board. Quarterback 8 through about quarterback 20 in ADP is so deep and has mobile guys as well and breakout candidates as well that could really overperform their ADP. It should be blatantly obvious to you that you should take a quarterback on the board. That is the best advice I can give you on attacking this position, is that it should be blatantly obvious to you in the round 8 through round 15 range that the best available player is a quarterback. Think about the opportunity bundle of taking Jalen Waddle in round 5 and getting Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, or Brock Purdy in round 10 versus taking Joe Burrow in round 5 and the best receiver available is Rashad Bateman and the best running back available is Zach Charbonnet. Like, you're going to be in a much better position where Jordan Love outperforms those guys that I just mentioned at wide receiver and running back 10 times out of 10 at his respective position, whereas Joe Burrow versus Jordan Love is not nearly as big as a tier discrepancy as Jalen Waddle versus Rashad Bateman. So quarterback is deep unless you get a hypermobile stud and you get great value on them. I would not be drafting Burrow. I would not be drafting Mahomes. I would not be drafting Bakers of the world. Continue to hammer out wide receiver and running back. Just target one of the quarterbacks highlighted in yellow or green, as you can see above there. Hell, pair 2 of them together. If you want to draft a breakout candidate who runs like Drake May in round 10, pair him up with a veteran quarterback who's a little bit safer like Dak Prescott in round 12. Go ahead and do that. Dream matchups at the beginning of the season. By week 3, you probably will know who's going to be your starting quarterback, or you can continue to stream from that point on. Another default to your late round quarterback strategy should be to pair whatever quarterback is throwing to your best wide receivers. Let's say you took CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill with 2 of your first 3 picks. Well, then Dak Prescott in round 9-10 is on the menu. Tua Tagovailoa around 12-13 is on the menu for you. When you stack your quarterback with an early round wide receiver, you already made the bet on that early round wide receiver smashing this year. he will bring the quarterback along if he does. Think about 2023. If you drafted CeeDee Lamb in 2023, you had a 72% chance of making the playoffs in a standard 12-man league. And if you stacked him with Dak Prescott, that became 86.4%. You had a 28.4% chance of winning your league, which is over triple your implied win rate of 8.3%, 1 divided by 12. So as far as quarterbacks, take the elite dual threats early, default to late round quarterback, worst case scenario, prioritizing stacking if you possibly can. As for tight ends, the position is definitely very top heavy and they can give you a great positional advantage. Bowers, McBride, Kittle, and so forth. But why I'm fading tight end this year is because tight ends provide the biggest league winner rate of any position post round 10. You guys can see there's a couple league winners that have come at quarterback, a couple league winners that have come at running back, very few league winners that have come at wide receiver post round 10 versus tight end has the most amount of league winners post round 10. It is wise to swing on this position late unless you are absolutely sure of an early round guy. This position on a weekly basis is very volatile. They bust at a high rate. Last year, in terms of top 3 fantasy scoring weeks by a tight end on any given week, so 51 total, 17 weeks of fantasy times 3, 30 of the top 51 came from not highly drafted tight ends. You can stream this position very well. You can find tight end production later in your draft, and in the league winning tight end video, which is also linked down below, I talked about on a micro level, there are 15, 18 tight ends that I feel really, really good about this year, as opposed to last year after Bowers and Njoku were off the board, tight end 8 and 9. I thought the position fell off a lot more last year than it does this year. I feel really good about 1 through 16 tight ends, I would say, and there's some definite stabs I even like later than that. Ultimately, my favorite action plan for tight end is this. In 2025, if you do take an early round tight end, make sure it's at a great ADP value. Most likely that'll mean it's George Kittle because Brock Bowers goes super high. Trey McBride goes super high as well. Let your league mates chase Sam Laporta, TJ Hawkinson, Evan Ingram, Mark Andrews up the board, Travis Kelce up the board. And while they're doing that, you're loading up at running back, wide receiver, and maybe an elite quarterback through those first 7 to 9 rounds. And then once you get outside the 8th, 9th round area, I'm taking 2 swings on the tight end position because my specific strategy is to take one elite upside swing who could be this year's Brock Bowers, for example. The rookies Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, both top 15 NFL draft picks. The third-year veterans like Tucker Kraft, Dalton Kincaid, also super high upside picks as well. And then pair one of those guys with a safer tight end like David Njoku or Dallas Goedert or Jake Ferguson, who we kind of know what they are. We know they're talented. We know they can give us back-end tight end 1 weeks and break glass in case of emergency. If inevitably your league mate who drafted an elite tight end is lacking at running back and wide receiver during the season, you're going to have plenty of trading options, especially if they're not winning games, and you can go buy low on Sam Laporta, who's not performing at a high level. You can give them a wide receiver they can start in their lineup plus one of your bench tight ends or something like that. Most importantly, too, you'll have more certainty when you're buying a tight end in season than you would by drafting a tight end now. So that's the whole point of why I'm waiting at tight end, is I feel like I can trade for them during the year, and I feel like I can hit on them in the late rounds this year specifically. Tight ends miss in the first 7 rounds at a high rate. Only 40.8% of the time you're getting a positive win rate tight end, or 20 out of the 49 tight ends drafted since 2020 producing that positive win rate. As much as you think it's a lock that you have a positional advantage, it is only a positional advantage 40% of the time, according to the last 4 years of hit rates. Dedicate your waiver budget to streaming tight ends if you have to, hunting for a breakout guy like Jonnu Smith on the waiver wire. The bottom line is this position scores the lowest amount of fantasy points. Just reality. Quarterback's going to score 20, 25 fantasy points a week. Good running backs, 15 to 20. Wide receivers, 15 to 20 in PPR. Tight ends are going to be more like 10 to 15, depending on the tight end that you have. You can beat your opponent by having better wide receivers, running backs, and quarterbacks, and having a weaker tight end. The onesies that score the most point is quarterbacks. So that is why I'm targeting them over the tight end position. I'm also willing to go late round at both positions. Let's say I drafted only wide receivers and running backs for the first 7 to 8 rounds. I can draft a late round quarterback and a late round tight end and feel pretty good about my chances of winning, maybe trying to trade and upgrade for a better quarterback, better tight end during the season. So those are my strategy tips at all 4 fantasy football positions. Hopefully this made sense sense to you guys, we are going to take it into action and we're going to go into a mock draft where I'm going through my exact league settings and I'll show you exactly how I implement this. Let's get into it. So we're now into the mock draft. You guys can see the scoring format on the screen there. It is a 1 quarterback, PPR, 12 team, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 2 flex. I do have big play bonuses. I do have half-point first down bonuses to running backs and tight ends, but for the purposes of this video, I'm not going to focus too much on that stuff because I know that's not a very common league scoring format. But we're going to start the mock. Like I mentioned to you guys, I am picking from the 9 slot. I know where I'm drafting from, and I'm going to kind of implement the first 8 picks based on how I think they're going to go, and I'm going to make sure that I don't give myself a sliding elite value because generally speaking, I do think I need to plan for worst case scenario in case that plays itself out, and that's what I'm going to do here. All right, so I'm now on the clock. This is how I personally believe the draft will go before me. I've done some research, asked my league mates who they like, and this is my best estimate on what is going to happen until my pick coming up. As of right now, I do have Puka Nacua as my highest rated player. I'm recording this August 11th. I do not know the situation of Matthew Stafford's shoulder. I do also have Devon Achane ranked very highly. It would be between those 2 players. Of course, if you guys disagree and you just take St. Brown or whoever else, then by all means, that's probably what you would do. If you want our rankings, our draft guide, and everything as I made reference to, that is available linked in the pinned comment. All of the draft guides of all of your favorite creators, season pass, $35, August through January site coverage. But I'm going to take Puka Nacua because he is my highest rated player at this current moment. And I do think based on all reports, Matthew Stafford come the regular season should be fine. But again, I will adjust my strategy. My draft is not till September 1st. If for whatever reason it doesn't look like Puka Nacua is going to have Matthew Stafford at the beginning of the year, I probably wouldn't actually draft him. And I do actually have Devon Achane, who is my 9th overall player. So I got my 8th and 9th overall players here with my first 2 picks. Devon Achane, I would have been comfortable taking in the first round. But as I made reference to in the strategy portion, first round wide receivers have the highest league winner rate between running back and wide receiver. And I'm able to secure a second round running back, which is actually the highest league winner rate as we talked about in the strategy portion amongst all positions. So I love this start to my draft. To me, this would be the dream start. Puka Nacua, Devon Achane, 2 of my top 9 players. And we'll have to wait and see what falls back to us at the 309. As I made reference to, I'm going to be heavily focused on potentially grabbing an elite quarterback if one slides to me either here or with my next pick. I do have Jaden Daniels on the board, so I could grab an elite quarterback here. I am going to look around at the other positions and see what kind of speaks to me here. At the wide receiver position, I believe my highest 2 rated wide receivers are the 2 available at the top of ADP. Marvin Harrison Jr., Mike Evans, I believe are the 2 highest rated receivers I have. And then at running back, Amari Hampton is my highest rated running back along with Kenneth Walker and James Cook. They'd be in kind of like a tier for me. So I could go with another running back as I made reference to in the running back portion. In round 3, the league winner rate of running back actually outperforms that of wide receiver, but the elite quarterbacks are on the board as well. Do I want to risk it? Do I want to risk Jaden Daniels or Jalen Hurts going at this turn here, knowing that I can fall back on one of those 3 running backs potentially falling back to me or one of those wide receivers falling back to me? I cannot replace Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts if I don't take them. I can replace running back and wide receiver if I do take them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Jalen Hurts. Of the 2 quarterbacks here, I do prefer Jalen Hurts. The reason I prefer him is because I do think the Eagles throw the ball a little bit more. I'm a teensy bit lower on Saquon Barkley than what he did last year. I think A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith are going to catch a lot more passes. And, of course, we know the tush push is here to stay, and Jalen Hurts is going to punch in at minimum 10-plus rushing touchdowns. 5 of the last 6 times you've taken Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, or Josh Allen, they've been league winners. So I'm going to grab Jalen Hurts here, and we're going to see what falls back to me at running back and or wide receiver. We do see some of these guys getting rattled off the board here, but I do have a lot of those options fall back. George Kittle's on the board. I could grab myself an elite tight end here. Like I said, Bowers and McBride, I'm a little bit less likely to take because George Kittle, to me, represents a larger positional advantage, and he's basically in the same tier as those guys, and he is the cheapest of the 3. At wide receiver, the guys that I wanted went, Mike Evans and Marvin Harrison. I have Puka Nacua, so I'm probably not going to be interested in Devontae Adams personally, especially given the Stafford risk. Rashee Rice, a little early for me there. A couple of these other guys, a little early. I could go Devontae Smith because I do have him ranked about this range, and I did just take Jalen Hurts, and that would be a great stacking option for me. But Amari Hampton and Kenneth Walker are my 2 highest rated players. Between the 2 of them, I have a decent amount of risk there with Puka Nacua. Devon Achane, I think, is a pretty safe RB1. I am going to go with Amari Hampton because even though he just lost his starting left tackle, Rashawn Slater, I mean, this guy does not have Najee Harris on the field. He was an exceptional prospect. Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb, Ezekiel Elliott. These were the comps that he was posting in our prospect model, so I am not afraid one bit of Amari and Hampton being a rookie, I think he is absolutely worth that selection. And what do you know? We do have a number of great options falling back to us. Devontae Smith does go, which is the guy I definitely would have loved to have fallen back to us given the Jalen Hurts selection. The running back position, I think I'm glad I took a running back because I feel a little bit locked out to some degree. I love Isaiah Pacheco. I think he's worthy of this selection. I love Trevion Henderson. I think he's worthy of this selection. But I do feel like the opportunity bundle of Amari and Hampton and the receiver that I'm going to take here is a little bit better than Trevion Henderson and let's say DJ Moore or Rashee Rice or whoever I could have taken at wide receiver there. I'm not going to take TJ Hawkinson. I think it's a little bit too early for him. My decision will be between Jalen Waddle, George Pickens, Tedero McMillan, Travis Hunter, and so on. Jalen Waddle, because he has the Q tag, I think I can punt him to my next pick. I did talk about him being the absolute best archetype of wide receiver you can be, which is a prime wide receiver one, guy who is obviously still very young and does have a wide receiver one season under his belt. I do have Devon Achane, so I'm already kind of invested in this offense. If I took Devon Achane and Jalen Waddle, that'd be kind of the anti-Tyreek Hill bet, which I think, given the vibes around the situation right now, are not the worst thing in the world. But I am going to take a little bit more of a steady Eddie guy that I feel really capable or feel really comfortable with, and that is going to be George Pickens, who does have a very good role on an offense that's going to throw the ball and so on and so forth. So of these, guys, I was hoping one of them would fall back to me between Tedero McMillan, Travis Hunter, and Jalen Waddle. Unfortunately, I do get kind of locked out at the wide receiver position, but not to fear. Like I said, I am not worried about the dead zone this year because I don't think Isaiah Pacheco is a dead zone running back of years past. Think about what a dead zone running back used to be. Used to be an old running back, injury issues, guys who weren't on good teams, who were just going to project for volume. Isaiah Pacheco plays for the Chiefs behind a top 10 offensive line with the best quarterback or one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and is a workhorse with a former RB1 season under his belt. Back in 2023, he was the RB 11 in points per game. So I feel great about playing him in my flex, even though it's a PPR league. Like I said, I do have first down bonuses, and because I have Amari and Hampton, it actually kind of makes sense to have a better RB3 because he is a rookie and you don't necessarily know what you're getting out of Amari and Hampton right away. So I feel excellent with that decision to go with Isaiah Pacheco. Again, I would have preferred Tedero McMillan, Travis Hunter, or Jalen Waddle, but at the 604, you're getting the starting running back for the Chiefs. I'm on the board again at the 709, and I do have my two starting wide receiver spots already filled out with Nakua and Pickens. I have my two running back spots filled out. I have my quarterback, and I have a flex with Isaiah Pacheco. If Jordan Addison wasn't suspended, he would be in very, very easy selection here, but I am going to probably have to think a little harder about this, knowing that Jaden Reed would be on my board right now, but as I'm recording this, he just suffered a minor injury to his ankle. I do think I probably need a guy who's a little bit more of a steady producer, who's not banged up at the moment, and so on and so forth. So it's really challenging because a lot of these guys are currently banged up coming off of injuries and whatnot. I do think that Stephon Diggs makes the most sense. He is currently healthy. He projects to be Drake May's number one receiver at this point in time. Man, this is going to be difficult. I'm going to go with Diggs because I do think I do want a guy that can get out to a bit of a faster start than some of the other guys that were on the board here, and they do make my next decision a little bit easier because of the wide receiver run that just took place. Travis Etienne's not a terrible option here. I do want to peer at the tight end position, but again, I'm probably comfortable punting it to my next selection. I don't have to worry about quarterback because I took Jalen Hurts. When you take an early round quarterback, I'm just so unlikely to take another one after that because I feel so great about what's going to take place at that position. Right now, I'd be between Jaden Reed, who again is dealing with an injury right now. Otherwise, he would be an easy selection for me here. Matthew Golden, his teammate, who obviously benefits directly from his injury. Emeka Egbuka, who excellent breakout candidate. Of course, as a Buccaneers fan, I would love to smash the draft button on him. And Josh Downs. For me, I think the highest upside play, knowing that I have my flexes filled out, my wide receiver spots filled out, and I can probably get a safer wide receiver with my next pick if I really needed to, or get safer wide receivers later, is Emeka Egbuka. I'm going to take him because at the 804, to me, he's just simply an absolute stud option who could absolutely crush that ADP. Given that Godwin's coming off of the injury, might not be ready for the start of the season. Mike Evans, obviously an older player as well, might not be healthy the entirety of the regular season as well. So we'll see what happens here. The tight end position does fall back to me in that I get one of my favorite targets in the entire draft, which is Colston Loveland of the Chicago Bears, a top 10 overall pick. Best comparable in our prospect model to Trey McBride, TJ Hawkinson, Dallas Goedert, some of the best tight end prospects we've seen over the last 8 to 10 years. So I feel excellent in getting Colston Loveland as my anchor tight end. As I made reference to, yeah, he's a little bit risky. He's a rookie tight end, but he is playing with the first team offense already. Even though Caleb Williams has a lot of weapons to throw to, I can cover my ass later by drafting a safer tight end if I need to. If I feel like, hey, Colston Loveland, I don't want to start him week 1, don't want to start him week 2, I'll grab Dallas Goedert later because that's probably going to be my plan given that I have Jalen Hurts anyways. So we'll have to wait and see if those guys fall back to me. Like I made reference to, the reason I went with Igbuka is because I thought I could get a little bit of a safer wide receiver with my next pick. And Michael Pittman Jr. is sitting there right for me, a guy who's finished as a high-end wide receiver 2 in the past, who is going in the 10th round here, which to me is an excellent, excellent value. I do expect Daniel Jones to be the starting quarterback of this team for the majority of the year because I don't think Anthony Richardson is any good, and he's already banged up with that finger injury. So in the late rounds, as I always talk about, if you've invested heavily into certain position groups, like for example, if you look at my team at this very moment, I have invested heavily into the running back position with 3 of my first 6 picks. So I'm going to be more likely to take wide receiver because I only had 2 wide receivers through the first, 5 rounds or so. And I did have 4 wide receiver through 8, but I do have some riskier bets, which is why I took Pittman with my last selection. So in the late rounds, high upside swings at running back, at wide receiver. And like I said, I do ideally maybe want to get another tight end because I do have a rookie tight end in my starting spot right now. But Dallas Goedert unfortunately went. He would have been my favorite pick there. I feel like I can get an early round tight end or an early season tight end that I can use, whether it's Zach Ertz or Hunter Henry with my next selection, or I can take another upside swing even on Isaiah Likely and just pray that I'm going to have a starting option there. So I'm going to take another running back or wide receiver and see what falls back to me. Tank Bigsby, Tajay Spears, some of the guys that would be in consideration for me there at the wide receiver position. Luther Burden, also definitely a great option of an upside swing. Marvin Mims, a great option for an upside swing. Kyle Williams, I already have Diggs, but he would be an interesting option. I'm going to go back to the running back position, and I'm just going to swing for the fences here. I'm going to grab Tank Bigsby on the off chance that he's going to start for the Jacksonville Jaguars because he is, was the more efficient of the 2 running backs last year, him and ETN, and it sounds like Tootin is a little bit behind the 8 ball in terms of learning the offense and whatnot, so I do think one of those veteran running backs is the way that I'm going to be playing it during my drafts. Back on the clock here. Again, maybe I go for a little bit of a safer option. Marvin Mims seems to be solidified the wide receiver 2 in Denver, especially after that first preseason game. Rashad Bateman, the certified wide receiver 2 in the Ravens offense as well. Could take another upside swing if I want. Maybe a Trey Benson, maybe a Tootin, maybe a Ray Davis, so on and so forth. Dylan Sampson with Quinshon Judkins still not back is actually, that's going to be the direction I go because that upside swing, if he ends up starting for the Browns most of the year because Judkins doesn't play or whatever the case is, maybe you guys have more information by the time you guys are listening to this. But as of right now, Judkins is still not with the team, still not under contract. So I'm going to take the swing on Dylan Sampson and hope that I can grab still another tight end, ideally, is what I would like to get. Brenton Strange, Isaiah Likely, like I made reference to. I could grab a Cade Otton probably in like the very last round here, which is probably what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take one more swing on wide receiver or running back and see if I can fill out the rest of my team here. So Braylon Allen getting a lot of hype for the Jets. Tyler Algier, of course, we know he's a high-end handcuff if anything were to happen to Bijan. Jalen Wright is my handcuff because I have Devon Achane, but I'm not personally in the business of handcuffing my own players. I'm going to trust that I made the right decision. And worst case scenario, I'll have to blow my fab on Jalen Wright if anything were to happen to my starting running back Devon Achane. Let's go with Braylon Allen. I think there's an opportunity for him to get some touches early on in the season. Maybe I can use him to trade. So I feel pretty good about my team. I'll show you guys the roster really quick here. Moving myself out of the way. We got Jalen Hurts, Devon Achane, Amari and Hampton, Puka Nacua, George Pickens, Colston Loveland, Isaiah Pacheco, Stephon Diggs. And then fresh off the bench, we got Emeka Egbuka, super high upside swing wide receiver. Michael Pittman Jr. as another safe option in case for whatever reason Diggs isn't ready or Egbuka isn't ready or whatever the case is. I can use Michael Pittman. Maybe he's going to be a trade chip for me at some point. Tank Bigsby, Dylan Sampson, Braylon Allen. The only way in which these guys see my lineup, because I think my wide receiver and running back cores are so good, is that the starter ahead of them went down, or they're the clear starting running back of their team. And then, like I said, for the first week, I have Cade Otton, just in case I need him. Play him over Colston Loveland, but to be honest with you, top 10 pick, already running with the ones for Chicago. I think I can play Colston Loveland even from the very first game. So Cade Otton, just a speculative last pick that I grabbed just in case I feel like I need to start him based on the rest of the preseason usage and so on. And I feel excellent about this team. To be honest with you, this feels like I executed everything that I wanted to strategically, and I feel super, super confident in my ability to beat my league mates with this team. So again, if you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like. I will answer literally every comment that is commented down below. Make sure you ask me questions. If you guys need help, I can help you out with that. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Again, 60% of you guys not subscribed. Let's change that. Really help the channel grow. If you guys could hit the subscribe button, it's totally free for you to do so. And if you guys are interested in bonus content, Season Pass will get you our draft guide, all of our rankings, including all the coverage throughout the start of the regular season. If you guys early in the year, you want to know our rest of season rankings, how they've changed from our draft rankings. That will be available using the season pass. And of course, you'll get our draft guide and the draft guides of all your other favorite creators that are in the Flock League with us. We'll be drafting that one later this week. So definitely stay tuned to the Flock League channel. Make sure you're subscribed over there. And again, if you guys want to practice some of this strategy before your home league drafts, head to Underdog Fantasy. Use the promo code FSE. You'll get a 50% deposit match up to $1,000. And you can start sparring Mike Tyson so that you can beat up your high school bully, aka your league mates, your college buddies, your high school friends, your family members, your work friends, whoever you play your fantasy football leagues with. Use Underdog as a tool to train for it. And in the process, you win some amazing prizes. $2 million to first. In Best Ball Mania 6, you can win up to $15 million in total prizes in Best Ball Mania 6. And they have smaller contests, $3 drafts, $5 drafts, and big contests, $250, $500 drafts. If that interests you, check it out. Pinned comment for both of those two things. But with that being said, peace out, and I'll talk to you soon.